John Anik joined by Team Thirsty's finest, Daniel Cormier, the two-time Olympian, former Strikeforce heavyweight Grand Prix champion, and now finally crossing over into the UFC. It's good to see you, man.
John, I mean, is it official now? I mean, because, you know, I was getting asked by people at a wrestling tournament last weekend, if you're a UFC fighter, I'm like, well, does that mean I fight MMA, or am I officially a UFC fighter, or do I have to fight in the UFC first? Right. So I'm looking for some clarification here, John.
No, I think you are a certifiable UFC fighter, and I guess if you want to wait till April 20th to make it official, I guess that's fine with us, but 420 in San Jose against Frank Mir, you got to be pretty excited.
It's going to be a big fight. You know, I've been a lucky guy. You know, I fought San Jose against Josh Barnett. I got to go back to Oklahoma and fight, and now I'm getting to fight again in San Jose. You know, there's only one guy that gets to fight at home as much as I do, and that's George St. Pierre.
So when did you sort of get the sense that mixed martial arts would be your path once wrestling was finished?
Well, I mean, it was after about a year. You know, for a year I worked at a local TV station doing TV ads and writing commercial scripts, and I hated it, man. I hated being in an office. I hated having to get up in the morning and getting dressed instead of just throwing on some jeans and a T-shirt. And one of my buddies was calling me up, telling me, dude, you got to try it. You got to try it. You got to try it. And then, you know, at first it was hard. I mean, I got hit the very first day because when I went to AKA, they said, DC, what you're going to do is you're going to go in there and try to take Kane down. Well, truth be told, Kane's not the easiest guy to take down. So I'm going to go in there. I have no striking experience or any way of setting anything up, but he punched and he kicked me and he beat me up, and I was lasting about 2.5 minutes. And then they would just roll me underneath the bottom rope of the ring and then throw a new guy in there.
All right, so the competition's going to get stiffer. What is the biggest challenge as you now step under the bright lights of the UFC's Octagon?
You're right. You know, the competition, it's going to get better. You know, we've always known the UFC is the show. You know, biggest crowds, the brightest lights, the best stars. And I've positioned myself now for big fights, and that's what I want. You compete in the Olympic Games, you compete in the National Championships, NCAA tournament, you want to wrestle and fight in the show. Getting these big fights now is what I'm used to. It's what I've done my entire life. You know, I've wrestled multiple Olympic champions, world champions, biggest competitions in my life. And now I've got to just take my experiences from before and apply them to my the second part of my career, which is the UFC. I don't anticipate too big an issue with it, honestly.
You don't look like an easy guy to intimidate. Perhaps when I mention the name John Jones, some intimidation would creep in. No, I certainly doubt it there. But a lot of people do forecast you eventually making the drop down to the light heavyweight division, and John Jones is asked about you all the time. You know, a lot of people think you're one of the guys best equipped to end what has been the most dominant light heavyweight reign we've ever seen in the UFC. Is that in your immediate future?
Well, I mean, you know, a lot of things have to play to that happening. You know, it's going to really be up to the organization. But if the opportunity presented itself, yeah, I would gladly take it. I think that's one of those fights that can turn into a long-running rivalry.
Sure.
I think that John and I would put on great shows for the fans. You know, you said it. He's to me, pound for pound, the best fighter in the world. These are the fights that become legendary. And at some point, I would like to take part in that.